How's it going, everyone? David from dodmedia. Today we're having a look at the brand new Sigma 50mm f1.4 DGDN full frame lens. This one's for E-mount on my Sony. Sigma sent me the lens as a loaner for a few test shots to use on a few shoots, and then I need to send it back. I don't get to keep the lens, I'm not paid to say any of this, it's just a hands-on experience. And normally I'd do this at the review desk instead of here where I do the tutorials and edit, but I'm going through some stuff over there, so it's a bit of a mess. So here we'll have to do. Now, for me to get a comfortable hands-on experience with this lens, I used it in 3 scenarios. The first one was a video scenario where I was filming in one of the local pubs, best pub in Oxford if you ask me, the Jolly Post Boys. And so I had it on a gimbal and I was just testing out how it worked in video. Here's that montage. After that, I took to the streets of Oxford and did something I've not really ever done before. I approached complete strangers and asked them if I could take their photos. A lot of people said no. A few people said yes. Now, I've not had a huge amount of experience using 50mm. Typically, I've always shot kind of 35 and 85, and then 70 to 200 if I needed further than 85. But that kind of middle range of 50 was a little bit new territory for me. I have the nifty 50, of course, everyone should have the nifty 50, but I don't use it a huge amount. So it was interesting for me, like just the distance that I needed to place myself from people and to achieve the kind of framing that I wanted. I wanted to use this as a portrait lens, even though I know it's more of a mid-range lens, but I wanted to use it for portraits, which actually meant getting pretty close to the subjects. But ultimately, that kind of worked to its advantage in a way that the 35mm, don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful lens, but you need to get a little bit too close to your subjects to get this kind of framing. The 50mm allowed me to get just close enough that I could create this kind of comfortable rapport without having to be as far back as I would be with an 85 or, anywhere from 70 to 200. The sharpness on this thing is just bonkers. It's absolutely insane where you want it to be sharp. Where it's not sharp, where it's out of focus, bokeh as it is called, is just beautiful. It is creamy, the bokeh rings are beautiful, there's a slight distortion as you move out towards the edges, which I personally love. And yeah, I mean, it performed fantastically with the Sony a7 III autofocus system. Even with that hair-thin depth of field, it was still able to nail that eye focus most of the time. And that's just a case of the lens cooperating nicely with the camera's autofocus system. And then the final setup that I used it in, because I had the lens in my camera bag, still on loan, and I had a gig to shoot, and I thought, do you know what, I'll bring it along. And so I shot some studio portraits with it. So here it's more stopped down to f8, f7.1, f8, just to see how it fares when it's not completely wide open. And again, I mean, this thing is just stupidly sharp where you want it to be. It's brilliant. And it renders a really nice contrast. And and then I used it for more kind of lifestyle stuff as well afterwards with the same client, where they wanted some kind of like team interaction going on. And again, it meant that I had to get a little bit more in there with them, but that was quite nice because it made it feel like, from the perspective of the viewer, that you're kind of in the team with them, if that makes sense. So that worked really nicely. So yeah, very impressed with that. As far as build quality goes, this thing is solidly built, like a brick house. I'm not going to swear for the algorithm, but you know what I mean. Filter thread size, I do believe, is, yes, 72 mil, so it's not stupidly large, but if you are used to the more common 67 mil, then for using filters it might be a bit of a problem. But it's not excessively large. You have a custom button on there which you can set to trigger like eye focus, that kind of thing, which is quite handy. You can click or declick the aperture. It is a very nice lens, solidly built. There's a little bit of a rubber gasket going around there as well, so it would have some kind of weather or elements or dust proofing. It's not going to be like, you wouldn't want to leave it out all night in the rain, but you know, if it gets a little splash, I think it would be fine. And in line with all of their other DGDN series lenses, it just looks really good. It's got a really nice design to it. It looks sharp, it looks smooth. It's a complete contradiction. I don't even know what I mean by that, but design-wise, it does. It looks sharp and it looks smooth. Sharp, smooth. If you're interested in getting the lens, it's priced at £850 in the UK or $850 in the US. Buy it in the US, that's a better deal. Overall impressions of the 50mm? Beautiful. All right. If you enjoyed this video, there is a link in the description to buy this lens if you would like to. Give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. Subscribe, there is a B in there, subscribe. Ring that bell, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.